Hi YouTube viewers, thanks so much for tuning in. I apologize first of all for the hit and miss release of videos over the last couple months. I've been pretty busy the last half of this year, mainly because I've been moving. I've moved twice, so I'm finally in my final home. That's where we're at right now. I'm still unpacking and still getting things set up, but it's a lot better. I'm settled down now, so I'm happy to say that I think things are going to get back on a regular schedule. And I appreciate all of you viewers who have just expressed, concerns and have reached out to me and noticed that my video release schedule was a little bit off kilter. So thank you very much for that. I'm okay, everything's okay, and I'm happy to be kind of back in the saddle, so to speak, and making videos. Now I should also let you know that we are here at my new property and we're doing some renovation work that's going on behind me. More on that in a little bit later in a later episode, but you might hear some of that work happening in the video, so I apologize for that. Also, some other big news is you may have noticed on the last couple videos that have been released, or the last video that's been released, the format's changed, and that's because we are constantly improving the channel. We now have a new person joining the Ultramobility family, and that's Alex Calhoun. Alex Calhoun is the camera operator for the channel now and the cameraman, as well as doing editing work for me as well. So we're definitely improving the channel. I think you can see already that the quality of our videos is bumped up to a level. So I welcome Alex, and thank you very much, Alex, for being a part of the Ultramobility channel. A couple weeks ago, but maybe more than that, I think it was about a month ago, on my community tab, I posted and asked you all to list your questions, and just a whole lot of you. We had, well over 50 responses to that. Folks have listed really good questions. So I thought what I was going to do today is to answer those questions for you. So without further ado, let's jump into your questions. Now, this first question is from MTBGo, and it's been upvoted 25 times. Why are manufacturers so far behind the curve? Drop the generator and propane completely. Solar is here. Add lithium and 3,000 watts of inverter standard. Also, these vans need to be true 4-season. It's not hard for them to do. What do you think? All right, MTBGo, there's a lot that you've packed into this question, so let's unpack it and start to answer it. Your first part of your question is, why are manufacturers so far behind the curve? All right, I'm putting on my pontification cap. And I will share, this is just my opinion about things. I think there are a couple things at play here. So first of all, I don't know if I agree with the statement that North American RV manufacturers are behind the curve. I might want to reframe the question a little bit, and as why does it seem that North American manufacturers are not as fast to embrace some of these technological changes that we may be seeing in other areas, like in the automotive industry and consumer electronics industry? Let's just say that. And I think that's a fair statement. Well, I think there's a couple things that are happening here in North America. The first thing is our market, the North American buyer market, is different than the European buyer market. We see, like if you go on YouTube and you track European RVs, like I do, because I spend my days doing, you see a lot of innovation going on in the European market, but I think part of that is because the market there is younger. The market in Europe is a lot of families, and a lot of families that are, with kids, taking their RVs out. A lot of Class Bs are very big there, taking them out, much bigger than, for instance, the Class A segment. The Class B segment's huge. It dominates Europe. I'm not quite sure, but I think it's a larger market, and I think it's a market of younger buyers. And I think younger buyers are more open, and they demand more innovation. The North American buyer is a retired couple, generally. It's not the entire market, and it's changing, as all markets do, but it's primarily a retired couples market. I think that market is less interested in innovation and more interested in things just working, going with the tried and true. It's just a more conservative market. When you get to retirement age, I'm getting there, I'm not there yet, but when you get to retirement age, you just want things to work. You want less complications in your life. And let's face it, with things like our Android and iPhones, with every new update, they seem to become more complicated. Things seem to maybe break. You have to relearn something. And I just think the North American buyer is just, they're not wanting that. They're looking to retire. They want to hit the road. They want to go visit their grandkids or whatever. And they want to do it in relative comfort, and they want to do it in relative ease. They don't want a lot of headaches. That's number one. Number two, I think there's not a lot of incentive, let's face it, for manufacturers to invest heavily in R&D here in North America. An RV is not a primary purchase. It's not like buying a car. It's not like buying a cell phone. And the market's still relatively small. I mean, we're talking about measuring in maybe, in thousands and thousands of units. We're not talking about millions, tens of millions of units of whatever it is, which is what you would see in the automotive industry and in the consumer electronics industry. When you get to larger scales like that, you can afford to have really big R&D teams inside your company. And you have to, because the market's more competitive in a sense, so you have to differentiate yourself differently. Anyway, I don't think that it's just not big enough here in North America to justify huge R&D budgets. Now, you do get innovation happening here in North America, for sure. I mean, let's take a look at the new Solus by Winnebago, which is their pop-top camper van. The Solus has some, I think, interesting forward-thinking innovations. They may not be techie innovations, but they are usability innovations that they put into that. And so you can get a company the size of Winnebago, which right now here in North America, at least in the Class B market, I believe they're the number one. They are number one. So I think they have, and they sell towables and trailers and things like that. So they can shift resources around inside their company. And so we're seeing Winnebago do, some innovation, but we're also seeing some of the smaller companies like Pleasureway also doing innovation. I mean, Pleasureway standard lithium batteries across all their product lines. I mean, I think that's pretty innovative. Multiplex wiring, color touchscreen control panels, automatic generator start. I think we have to credit and plaudits to these companies when they do innovate. But in general, there's less innovation. Now, specifically, dropping the generator and propane completely, I'm not for that. I mean, I understand why people want to do that, but I think there's a fear about propane. Like, we use it for barbecuing and things like that. I think once you become comfortable with propane, then it becomes less of an issue. Propane is great because of its energy density. Let's not forget that. For the amount of space, volume-wise, that you take up with a propane tank on board of a Class B RV, and let's face it, space is really critical, you get a lot of energy bang for your buck, much more than lithium batteries could ever do, considering the weight and the size and all of that. So, and it's plentiful and it's cheap. I don't see propane as a negative. I think it's another energy source. I think if it's balanced correctly, it's just, you always have to look at your energy needs in your RVs, and propane's one way that we can power appliances that are really power hungry, like your heater and your water heater. Even today, okay, with lithium batteries, if you're in a really cold setting, you're not going to power those off batteries. You're just not going to. It would deplete your batteries too quickly. So you need something like propane or diesel or something like that to heat, that's plentiful and is cheap and is easy to refill. So the generator, first of all, let's be clear about what we're saying when we say generator. I think what you're talking about is like the Owens Cummins generators, which are the standalone generators that attach to the bottom of the RVs, because a secondary alternator in the engine compartment's also a generator. I don't think we're at a place where we can just get rid of generators. We need a way to replenish our battery packs in the coach, okay? And that can either be through a beefy secondary alternator in the engine compartment, and those have its pros and cons, and we can talk about that later, or it can be through a secondary generator unit that is attached to the bottom of the coach and runs either off propane or gas or diesel. Again, I don't think we're not there yet where we can just ditch the generator. The generator has to be there to power really big power-hungry appliances like your rooftop air conditioner, as an example. Can you power it off lithium batteries? Yeah, you're going to be carrying around all the time, hundreds and hundreds of pounds worth of lithium batteries and over $10,000 worth, $15,000 worth of lithium batteries all the time just to power your rooftop air conditioner. So maybe some of us are okay with that. Maybe some of us are not okay with that. I mean, the same argument could be made. That's why you have a generator underneath the coach as well. It's to power the rooftop air conditioner. So just keep that in mind. I don't right now see it anytime soon where we're going to completely ditch propane in the generator. Solar is here. Yes, solar is here. I agree. I wish more coaches would have at least 200 watts of solar on the roof of these Class B vans. I believe that's the minimal amount that you need, especially if you have a compressor refrigerator. But let's face it, even if you completely covered the roof of your Class B with solar, it's never going to be enough. Even in the most sunniest of days, it's never going to be enough to gather enough energy to replenish huge lithium battery packs if you're running your rooftop air conditioner all the time. I think there's a YouTube video out there of a guy who converted a van that completely ran off of solar power. Well, it completely ran off of lithium. I think he also had a secondary alternator, but the entire roof of the van was covered in solar panels, and then coming out the roof, it folded out like this, and it tripled the size of the roof of the van. There were more solar panels, a couple thousand watts of solar that when it was completely deployed. And yes, he had an electric drivetrain, and he powered everything through solar. But that's not feasible today. You know, you're not going to deploy a roof that large in a setting usually. Solar is great. Solar can be used to maintain and top off your batteries and things like that. But on a Class B RV, it's just never going to be enough to keep your lithium batteries charged up enough where you can propel the RV and live completely off of the RV using solar. Agree that lithium is good. I did a video about this. I don't think it's the be-all, end-all for energy storage on an RV. I think there are applications and there are times when we want to use lithium. I think there are applications and times when lead-acid batteries work really well. I don't think we need to necessarily ditch lead-acid batteries. I do think it would be great if all RV manufacturers offered a lithium upgrade. So for those buyers who want lithium, who need lithium, to have that upgrade path from lead acid, I think is great. But at the same time, I don't think the right answer is to just ditch lead acid batteries because they're cheap, they're cost effective. You can go down to any automotive store and just pick them up and throw them in there, and you're not going to be stranded if a complicated lithium energy system goes out on you on the road. You're going to be able to get back up and running fairly quickly. So that's my feeling on lithium batteries. A 3,000 watt inverter, I don't know, look at your energy needs. So for those of you who don't know what an inverter does, when you have lithium batteries or lead acid batteries inside of your coach, those are DC, okay? And so they need, if you want to plug in like your laptop, which has the two-prong thing like we have in our house, okay, that's AC. And so you need to take the energy coming out of the battery and you need to invert it so that it becomes AC power. That's what an inverter does. The larger the inverter, the more things you can plug in and the more power you can draw off the battery. So a 1,000 watt inverter, look at a microwave. If you want to, it will maybe run your microwave, okay? But you're not going to be able to run your microwave and probably power your laptop. A 2,000 watt inverter would let you do both of those things. A 3,000 watt inverter, it's 1/3 larger to let you do a little bit more. I happen to think, for my needs, a 2,000 watt inverter is great. Because my basis is I want to be able to run the microwave or have the coffee pot on and not trip a breaker when I have my laptop plugged in. That's kind of my use case. Your use case may be different. This is why you need to think through how you're going to use your RV and what your energy requirements are going to be and configure accordingly. Are there times when some of you may need 3,000 watts? Absolutely. If you're in a hot climate and you want to run your air conditioner, rooftop air conditioner off the batteries, and you also want to be cooking yourself a meal in the microwave, yeah, you're going to need more than 2,000 watts. You're going to need 3,000 watts. That's not me. So that extra 1,000 watts would be overkill for me. So this is just a reminder that think through what your use case is, where do you live, what components are you going to be using that require the inverter, and then size accordingly. Also, you say, these vans need to be true for season. All right, this is a big topic. What do we mean by true for season? I have been attempting on all my recent videos to set some type of bar, a baseline, for what we mean by four season. And I'm not even going to add the moniker true onto the front of it because I don't quite know what that means. But for me, you know, what you have is varying degrees of four season RV ability, okay? So on one extreme, you have just exposed water lines, exposed tanks to the elements, and can you, you know, survive down to 32 degrees in a setup like that? Sure, you can. Probably not if it's below freezing for an extended period of time. But if you're just overnight, it drops down to 32 degrees, you don't need to worry about it. You're not going to, your water pipes aren't going to crack and stuff like that. So that's one extreme on the lower end. Lower end. We'll start from here on the lower end, all the way up to the ability to, like a house. And I would say even in a house, you know, if you live in a really cold climate, there's things that you have to be aware of. But being able to pretty much not worry about it. So all of your water lines are inside, all of your tanks are inside, they're in heated compartments. Your dump station is heated, so if you need to dump, that's not freezing up. You have a good amount of insulation. What is a good amount of insulation? I suppose enough that when the heater's not running 24/7, but look, if it gets cold enough outside, yeah, your heater's gonna be running more often. That's just the way it is. So you know, good insulation. Does that require dual pane windows? Maybe, I don't know. You know, a lot of the heat in your RV when you're in a cold environment actually escapes through the front cab. That's where a lot of your heat's going through. You have single glazed windows up there all around. And so unless you have some type of thermal break there, a lot of your heat's just being sucked out there. But let's assume that you have a heavy curtain or something that comes down there is thermal breaking the cab off. Then yeah, having dual pane windows inside the rest of the coach in the back helps. Having a good amount of R-value insulation in the floor and the walls and the ceiling helps. Having a good heater helps. Having a good energy source with, you know, propane, probably, or you're running off your diesel tank helps. So all those things help to make you true four season. It can be hard to do, depending on how much you want the Class B to be a true four season rig. Class Cs are easier to make four seasons because they're built on a cutaway chassis, not on a van chassis. And the cutaway chassis means that you basically have a complete blank frame bed in the back, and you can build on top of that. And then everything for about a foot below it, you can put in a basement, and then you can heat that basement, and you can put all of your components, like your tanks, your water lines, your dump station can all go in the heated basement. We can't do that on a Class B van chassis because we don't have much space really below the van floor to drop a basement in. So all that stuff needs to be exposed, or you need to move the water tank to the inside of the van, in which case, you know, a 20, 30, 35 gallon water tank, it's going to take up, you know, a huge amount of area for storage. So you have to be aware of that. You're certainly not going to move your gray and black water tanks. You can put a cassette toilet in that effectively moves your black water tank inside the heated coach, which means it doesn't, but your trade-off there is you have a smaller black water tank. You go down to maybe under 5 gallons versus something that may be 20 or 30 gallons. So, you know, these are all trade-offs and balances. Usually you're not going to move your gray water tank in. It's usually 20, 25, maybe 30 gallons. That's not going to be moved inside the coach. So that's always going to be external on a Class B. The question is, can you insulate it? Can you put it inside a heated compartment? And to what degree does that protect the gray water tank from freezing? Depends on the amount of insulation, how much heat you can put through there. Glycol lines are, in my book, one of the best ways because you can heat glycol lines up to 140, 150 degrees, which is going to be a lot hotter than an electric heat pad. Plus the glycol lines are going to use something like propane or diesel to heat, and the heat pads are always going to use electricity. And the heat pads are, you know, they're just, if you're driving down the road, they're going to have very little protection from the wind chill factor of preventing that gray water tank from freezing. Glycol lines in an insulated compartment will do much better. So this is, as you can tell, this is not necessarily an easy thing to fix and balance correctly in a Class B. It's hard, and you're making trade-off decisions on cost and on space and on livability and usability and all this stuff. And I think manufacturers try to do a good as job as they can, but we need to give them credit. I especially give Winnebago and the Winnebago Bolt credit for probably being one of the most four-season ready Class B RVs that we have out there, because it has a heated dump station. And isn't it the Revel? I believe the Revel uses the glycol lines and not the heat pads. I think the Bolt uses the heat pads. So anyways, that's my feeling on four-season. I'm trying to, in every one of my videos, being a little more clear about what I mean when I talk about four-season ready, so that it's more useful to you, because a lot of the manufacturers have just kind of, used it for marketing, and they waved their hand over it and said, oh, we got interior water lines, we're four-season ready. Well, as you can tell from this discussion, that is barely scratching the surface as to what's really needed in terms of making your coach four-season ready. So hopefully, by doing more reviews where we actually talk about four-season, we actually talk about what we mean by four-season, and then you as a buying consumer can go to your dealer lots and have an informed decision about what you need for your four-season capabilities. That will trickle on over to the manufacturers, who then will hear that and start maybe creating products that more closely meet your needs. I mean, that's my hope. But we have to start with initially talking about what we mean by four-season, and then what do you need for your individual needs as a consumer for a four-season Class B RV. Whew. Okay, that was a whole lot of gibber-gabber talk about that question. But I thought it was important because a lot of people upvoted this question, so I wanted to really dive deep and give you a more nuanced answer for it. So hopefully you guys found that valuable. All right, that wraps it up. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you found this video a little bit valuable. I'll see you all again next time. Take care. Bye-bye.